You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Our guest is Eszter Kutas. She leads the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation. We'll talk about that. They're unique. They're in Philadelphia. She previously worked at the Claims Conference, where she actually personally read and reviewed 80,000 first-person accounts. Eszter, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Before we get to the museum, I was impressed. You read 80,000 first-person accounts. How long did it take, and what was that like?
It took several years, and it was definitely a group effort. Our group worked in 12 languages simultaneously.
And you read them in all the different languages?
Yeah. So claims.
How many languages do you speak?
I speak 3 fluently, where I could personally, oversee the work. And we also had a group of claims analysts working in all these different languages. Each claim that was submitted to us was reviewed at least twice, if not 3 times, to make sure that we have accuracy in our judgment, whether people are going to be receiving money or not. It was an unbelievable experience because I grew up in a family of Holocaust survivors. All 4 of my grandparents were survivors themselves. So the Holocaust itself was a topic that I was very much familiar with through my family's history. But this really opened my eye to the wide range of experiences that people had during the Holocaust. It also opened my eye about historical judgments of seeing countries. For the longest time, we believed that Switzerland's role was independent, and what we now understand is that they collaborated, in fact, with the Nazis. That's why those accounts disappeared, so to say, for quite a few decades. So it was both a unique personal experience, but also professionally, it was extremely interesting for me.
Well, I guess that prepared you for your current role, correct?
Absolutely, it sure did.
Now, you are the head of the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation, which operates the local Holocaust Memorial. So tell us about that, because of the different Holocaust memorials around the country. So I'm just curious, what makes this Holocaust Memorial different or distinct than some of the other Holocaust memorials that exist in different parts of the nation?
So Philadelphia is home to the oldest public Holocaust monument in North America. It was commissioned, the monument was commissioned by local survivors in the 1950s. They engaged an actual Holocaust survivor to be the sculptor of this monument. And in a beautiful ceremony in April of 1964, the monument was erected on the head of the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. So it's unique because it's the oldest, and it's unique because the people who brought it about were all affected directly by the Holocaust. It is also unique because it's at the head of the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. So for those who are not familiar with Philadelphia, the Parkway is our center for all arts and cultural life within the city. It's a 1-mile radius from City Hall to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and it hosts the vast majority of our arts and culture institutions. So it was a perfectly picked location. And because of that, there is a lot of people who, as they explore Philadelphia as tourists or residents, they just happen upon this monument. And today, the site is not just home to this monument, but also to several additional educational artifacts that we have added during a redesign and renovation process that took us from 2015 to 2018. So today, the site has, for example, train tracks that are original from the railroad that led to Treblinka. Treblinka was the second worst or bloodiest, I should say, extermination camp after Auschwitz, where 800,000 people died. The site also hosts a historical tree that originates from Terezin or Theresienstadt, which was a camp in the Czech Republic. And the original tree was planted by a teacher and her students. And the tree lived on, but all the children who have planted that tree did not survive the Holocaust. And a sapling of this original tree is planted now at this memorial space. We also have 6 pillars at the site that obviously symbolizes the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust. But these pillars have historical texts that juxtapose American constitutional values, democratic values, with the destruction that happened during the Nazi regime that culminated in the Holocaust. So there is just a lot of interesting artifacts to explore as you go through the plaza. And you also, are able to see close up this beautiful monument that is, again, the oldest public such structure.
As you were speaking, I was thinking out loud is that, you mentioned it's the oldest Holocaust memorial in the United States. You have something going back to 1964, the monument going back to 1964. Really, in the 1950s and 1960s, for the most part, Holocaust survivors didn't really talk much about their experiences, let alone express it in such a public way. So it's unique that as early as 1964, that you had this monument erected, considering with the state of mind. It took decades, much longer for it to happen.
Absolutely. So there's few factors to that. So today we understand trauma and trauma healing much better than we did at the time. So you are absolutely right that from the 40s all the way to the 70s, most of the survivor community only shared what happened to them in a very, very private way with their families. So to erect a public monument that really becomes a sacred place, even today over the many decades, was unique. Also, our understanding of what has happened during the Holocaust has very much changed. The telling of the Holocaust was through really what was evidence that was left over from the Nazi regime. We know that the Nazis kept impeccable records. So a lot of what we have known about was really primary coming from those historical records as evidence. And only later, starting in the 1970s and 1980s, did the survivor community become the central teller of this history. And I think that really opened up our perspective to the unique experiences that all these people have had, and allowed us to really approach this historical time with a lot more ability to think critically about it, but also to have empathy for the actual people that went through it.
No, it's amazing because it took time, and I'm glad in Philadelphia maybe they were more conscious of speaking about it, because it's important. The legacy is important, but a lot of Holocaust survivors just couldn't talk, even to the very end. Some of them didn't communicate what happened to them, to their families. Their children found out about it afterwards, and it's important that they communicate it, because too many people deny the Holocaust today. And quite frankly, even in the Orthodox Jewish world, there are pockets where Holocaust education is lacking, and it's an important part of what happened to us.
Absolutely. So even my own grandparents, again, who all survived the Holocaust, which is why I'm able to be here, they shared only just very basic facts about where they were and who has died from their families, but they weren't willing to get into the details because it was just too painful for them. And it was too triggering of the trauma. I mean, for my parents, they also after that lived in the communist country of Hungary. So, in that regard, that was even harder than for those survivors who have settled down in democratic nations. I do agree with you. In general, knowledge of the Holocaust is really disappearing from our public's general conscience and knowledge. So I think that unfortunately fuels the rise of anti-Semitism that we see in our country, but really more broadly globally as well. So it's extremely important that now that time is diminishing the voices of the very last survivors, we come up with interesting and unique ways to keep sharing their stories so that we can fight anti-Semitism and bigotry in all its forms in our
Absolutely.
society.
Do you have any idea how many people visit the Philadelphia Holocaust Memorial?
Yes, somewhere around 15,000 people visit it every year.
15,000 people.
Mhm.
And I'm sure with COVID, did that change? And is
Oh,
now
the beauty of our site is
it's outdoors, right?
all outdoors and it's all accessible to the general public and it's open at all hours. So we did see a significant drop in visitorship at the very beginning of COVID when people were even afraid to leave their own houses. But once the science confirmed that outside is actually a safe place to be, we have seen continuous increases in visitorship now again.
If people want to learn more about the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation or about the Holocaust Monument and Memorial that exists, can people learn more?
I recommend that they reach out to us first through our website. It's Philadelphia Holocaust Memorial.org. Holocaustmemorial.org again. So you can contact us. You can schedule a tour if you are coming as a group, and we are happy to be your host and your guide. There is also an app that we have that was developed in partnership with the USC Shoah Foundation. This is an educational tour app that guides you through the plaza's features using Holocaust survivor testimony. So as you are engaging, for example, with the train tracks that I mentioned, then you will be provided content about the deportations and what life was like in concentration camps. Or if you're standing by the monument, you can learn its original story and how the survivor community brought it about. So we have, again, this app called iWalk that helps you understand the history of the site better.
Eszter Kutas, who leads the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation, which operates the local Holocaust Memorial, formerly with the Claims Conference, and she has an interesting claim that she personally met 80,000 first-person account, which is a major achievement. So thank you for all that you're doing to promote Holocaust, keeping the memory of the Holocaust alive, which is so important, and look forward to having you back in continued success.
Thank you, Zev. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.